Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel. It is official, Frank Lampard is the Chelsea interim coach until the end of the season. For me, this is incredible news. I woke up this morning and realised once again my phone, aeroplane mode, slightly too early, just before the announcement came in that due to Frank Lampard being at the game at the weekend, speaking with Bedad Egbali, Chelsea have decided before the game against Wolves this weekend that Frank Lampard should be the interim coach over Bruno Saltor until Chelsea can figure out who that new manager is going to be. Now, I posted my initial reaction to this morning, but now that it is confirmed that Frank Lampard is appointed until the end of the season, this means, in my opinion, there's only one thing for it. Chelsea will end up with Julian Nagelsmann as our permanent head coach. At the moment, there have been new managers being linked because now that Chelsea won't have a permanent coach installed into the club this season, every top manager in the game who's either out of a job or in a job is going to be linked with Chelsea until there is a confirmation that, yes, a contract has been signed from, in my opinion, it can only be Nagelsmann, because the only stumbling block or the only manager out of all of the managers heavily linked with a massive stumbling block is Nagelsmann, because he's still contracted to Bayern Munich. So with Nagelsmann still being contracted to Bayern Munich, Chelsea need to work out some kind of compensation package for Bayern. Luis Enrique has been without a club. He's been having a wonderful time, jobless. So that would have been all too easy. We're led to believe that there was presentations provided to Chelsea from Enrique that showed all of the players that Chelsea have and what Luis Enrique would do with them. Chelsea aren't fully sold by that. The only way I see this going now is Julian Nagelsmann will become the Chelsea manager. It makes sense. Luis Enrique is exciting. I think we probably play even more exciting football. But Nagelsmann is another exciting prospect. And for me, I've been on Twitter all morning, which is probably the worst place to gauge the real Chelsea fans' response to this news about Frank Lampard taking over. But Twitter is very much the place right now where you're either absolutely all for this or you're totally against it. And I'm afraid, for those of you that don't like this appointment of Frank Lampard, maybe this little relationship we've got going on here between creator, viewer, maybe it's not going to work between now and the end of the season, because I'm absolutely buzzing to see Frank Lampard back at Chelsea. When we think about his playing career, he never had a proper chance to say goodbye. When we think about the way that the whole managerial appointment ended when he was sacked before, when we put Thomas Tuchel in charge, there wasn't really a time to say goodbye then either. Chelsea just thought, no, you know what, we've had enough of this, results weren't good, and people were starting to turn on Frank, but not Frank as a person, Frank as a manager. And then look what happened. Tuchel takes over, we win the Champions League, and all of a sudden, it's very easy to forget that Lampard, as the manager, had ever put Chelsea in that position during that season in the first place. Since then, things kind of settle. Like when you throw a stone in the water, it makes a ripple, and then all of a sudden, after about 30 seconds, you never even knew that stone was thrown. It's exactly what's happened with Frank Lampard's, the way that people see Frank Lampard. People, for whatever reason, some people forget what he did for Chelsea as a player. People forget that above all else, he's a Chelsea fan. As a manager, that's where the real question marks lie. And I want to talk about this here today because as much as I'm excited on the sole premise that it is an interim job. This Chelsea job right now, I said it in my initial reaction, even if Chelsea win the Champions League under Frank Lampard, I don't think that it's a good idea that he remains as the permanent manager, because a Champions League win this season would kind of again paper over the bigger picture of where Chelsea are trying to go here. Yes, it would be incredible. I'm not saying let's not win it because we've got bigger things to worry about. No, winning trophies is everything. But Frank Lampard, at this point of his managerial career, having lost his job at Chelsea, lost his job at Everton, you can argue that maybe it's not the smartest thing to take a temporary job right now, but I do think he's doing Chelsea a favour here. But for Lampard, I don't think Chelsea's success, in terms of sustainable success, which is the goal of the new ownership, I don't think, even with a Champions League win this season, I still think we're a couple of years away in terms of cleaning out the squad, signing the right players, creating the spine of the team that saw us successful before. I still think that's a few years away. And if Frank Lampard was to win a Champions League this season, then blimey, he is definitely the favourite to be the next manager after whatever the next manager is if that fails. But I do think Julian Nagelsmann is at a point in his career where he's not been fired twice. He's been fired by Bayern Munich, but with a 70% win record. It's totally different than Lampard looking as though he was going to get Everton relegated this season, having Chelsea where we were, playing the way that we were last time he left. I think this is perfect to get certain players back playing again, to get people excited. You've got to remember, Frank Lampard's Chelsea, when Lampard was in charge, we scored goals. All right? We might have conceded an absolute bucket ton of them as well, but we have been crying out for over a year to see Chelsea banging goals in, week out. We have got some phenomenal footballers capable of doing so. And I think at the moment, that Troy Fofana should be given a run up front, because Kai Havertz operated a bit deeper under Frank Lampard and did very well. Kai Havertz liked Frank Lampard. You've also got the potential remontada of Mason Mount, as if he's actually ever really totally gone out of favour. He's been out of favour recently. But Frank Lampard knows that Mason Mount loves this club. Frank Lampard knows that Mason Mount should sign that Chelsea contract. Whether you absolutely despise Mount now, because you always have, and then the form this season has kind of vindicated your own opinion, that's okay. People are never going to like every footballer. But I think with Mason Mount, having Frank Lampard there to proverbially, or maybe literally, put his arm around Mason could do him the world of good. And whether that means he signs a new deal or not, or plays well between now and the end of the season, because Lampard will play Mason Mount. Whether you like that or not, I think it's good. I think he should be getting back in the team. And even if it is to put himself in the shop window so that the price is where it should be for Chelsea to sell him in the summer. If that's what it is, then fine. That's still a benefit for Chelsea. Selling Mason Mount is pure profit. Get Mason Mount back playing again. You've got a world-class potential footballer in your team. So I know a lot of people are going to dislike the fact that Lampard is here because it means Mount is going to play, and for whatever reason that gets people angry. All right, you can hold your thoughts with that one. Just do your own thing. Stay in your lane. I'll stay in mine. It's all good. But Frank Lampard being back just gets me so excited. And the best bit is, it looks like he's bringing Ashley Cole with him. He's bringing Joe Edwards back in with him. And he wants potentially John Terry involved too. John Terry is open. Matt Law reported that John Terry would be very happy to work alongside Frank Lampard during Lampard's interim head coach tenure between now and the end of the season. This is what Chelsea is. If you're a new fan, if you are an American fan who's arrived at Chelsea Football Club because Todd Boehly took over, there is quite a few people like that. And I think the USA equates for about 16% of my overall watch audience. So if you're one of the new people, these guys, Ashley Cole, John Terry, Frank Lampard, these guys are Chelsea. This is the DNA. This is if you put your fingerprint on a piece of paper, when Frank Lampard does it, Chelsea's badge comes up. So does JT. So does Ashley Cole, and we signed him from flipping Arsenal. So this is an exciting prospect, and the first match is away at Wolves, and we won 5-2. Away at Wolves, and I've got a blockbuster video coming your way, either later on today or tomorrow morning. Frank Lampard is holding his first press conference this afternoon as interim Chelsea head coach, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I will definitely be reacting to the comments, to what he says, because this is a big moment. And it's an exciting moment because a lot of these players at the moment were looking around, looking at Graham Potter, and again, not to disrespect Potter and keep going on about how bad he was, but when a lot of these players looked at Graham Potter, they weren't inspired. It's as simple as that. You can see it from the way that we were playing. When you look at Frank Lampard, yes, there's only going to be around maybe 5 players who might have a chance of actually continuing to play that were playing under Frank before, who might play now, and there's a lot of new players there. But the likes of Mudryk, he wants to be a goal scorer. Frank Lampard was a goal scorer. Joao Felix, Frank Lampard, he's going to be looking up to him thinking, I'm going to listen to this guy. And I think the immediate buzz around Chelsea, Frank comes straight into Cobham, knows where everything is, pretty much, well, doesn't know everybody now because it's a totally different infrastructure of the club, but it's the perfect fit for a temporary solution so that Chelsea can really make sure they get the long term right. And I'm absolutely buzzing with this. I think this shows, as much as people are trying to tell me it shows bad ownership, I think this is fantastic ownership. Because what it does is it means that the owners are really meticulously making sure that Nagelsmann fits every bill, that an Enrique fits every bill. Maybe they want to interview Antonio Conte, see if Conte would be happy to work within their parameters, unlike what Antonio Conte would do in the past. Not saying I back that, by the way, but for me, it's great. And I think in order to make sure that the project lasts, Chelsea don't want to make a mistake again by rushing and just shooting now. We've already sacked Potter, and that took a lot, I think, for the new owners. I think for the owners to sack him and giving him that contract, spending that money to get him out of his contract at Brighton, took a lot. So to make the same mistake again, it ain't gonna happen. So now, whether or not we find out within a week that it's Nagelsmann or whoever it's going to be, or if we really do find out at the end of the season, I trust now that the owners are putting this process as the priority to ensure our success in the future. But anyway, Super Frank is back. These have been my kind of more balanced thoughts as opposed to my immediate waking up this morning reaction. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, and I will see you guys later where we can watch the press conference. Come on, you Blues.